Hey guys, Jason here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing a top 10 list. It's going to be the top 10 most disturbing books I've ever read. This list is by no means the most disturbing novels ever written, and this is just my opinion. You know, everyone kind of, it depends a lot on what you find disturbing, but there's a lot of varying things in this list, so I think there's probably a little something for everybody in here, depending on what makes you cringe. I put these in an order, but it's not necessarily like from least disturbing to most disturbing. They're all pretty disturbing, so like you don't need to worry too much about the order that they're in. The first book on the list is The Troop by Nick Cutter. This book is about a Boy Scout troop. They're doing like a overnight camping trip or a weekend camping trip with their scout leader, and they're on this like secluded island for the weekend, whatever. And this guy who is obviously sick shows up on the island with them. Their troop leader is a doctor, so he tries to help them and ends up contracting whatever illness this is, and then it spreads, and it's very, very, very messed up. This one's particularly disturbing because it's very gory and gruesome. So that'll make you cringe. It's also got a couple of really hard to read scenes that involve animal cruelty and experimentation on animals and stuff like that, which is pretty brutal. And not to mention that this deals with like kids. They're like 13 or so years old, and one character in particular is like straight up psychotic, crazy. So like dealing with like psycho like kids is something that really can be bothersome. So yeah, but it's a very good book. I really enjoyed it. I think Nick Cutter is a great author. This is the only book of his that I've read, but I'm planning on reading more. So The Troop, Nick Cutter. The next book on the list is The Wasp Factory by Ian Banks. I just read this a few weeks ago, and I did a review of this book, so you can check that out if you want. This is kind of similar to The Troop. It deals with psychotic kids, which is messed up. This book is about a kid. His name's Frank. He lives in Scotland. He's in this very like secluded island with his dad, and he likes to torture animals, and he has all these weird like rituals that he does. He's a very like OCD kind of personality, and it's basically about like his brother, who's in an insane asylum, escapes and is coming back to their house. So he's anticipating his brother coming back, and his brother's also crazy. So kind of similar to The Troop, it deals with kids who are messed up psychologically, and they do a lot of really bad stuff. Again, it's a lot of animal cruelty and things like that goes on in this book. But I really enjoyed it. It was fairly short, quick read, and yeah, I do recommend this one too. The next one is maybe it's not really horror like in a traditional sense, but it definitely stuck with me, and it kind of freaked me out. It's Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. This book is about a guy, Nick, and his wife Amy, and one day Amy just disappears, and it appears that she was murdered maybe in her house. There's like some evidence, there's like blood and stuff, and everyone thinks obviously that the husband did it. So yeah, and I don't want to give too much away, because like really where this book shines is like the twists and turns that go on. Like you have all these assumptions about people, and they turn out to be not what you think they are. This book really bothered me because it's like you think you know a person, but you never can really know what a person is thinking or what they're going through, and they might not be the person that you think they are. And this cuts both ways in this book, with Nick and with his wife, and just the circumstance that arises from it is very, very troubling, and it was very good. I love this book, and I highly recommend it. The next one is Cows by Matthew Stokoe. This book has a reputation for being like one of the grossest, most disturbing novels ever. I do think that it's probably the grossest book that I've ever read. It is disgusting. It's disturbing, for sure. But I wouldn't say it's the most disturbing. It's just, it's so ridiculously over the top. Like, insanely gross. That it almost becomes, like, too much. It's, like, not real. You can't... It's very strange. It's a very weird book. It's about this guy. His name's Steven. He is raised by his mom, and his mom's a horrible person. Basically, every character in this book is a horrible person. They do horrible things to each other. Like, she makes him eat rotten food, and just, I don't know. It's bad. But he goes to work in this slaughterhouse. And yeah, it's just, I have a review of this. You should check it out if you want more information, but it's just depravity. And I don't recommend this book. This is not a good one. This is just really, really gross. This is definitely the grossest book that I've ever read. But like I said, it's only just, that's why it's disturbing. It doesn't make you think too much about like human nature and all of that, because it's almost like just gross to be gross. So it doesn't have as much of an impact after the first like half of the book. You're just kind of numb to it a little bit. So yeah, I don't know. Cows, Matthew Stokoe. The next book on this list is fantastic. It's Blindness by Jose Saramago. This book is so good, but it is gut-wrenching. It's about basically like there's this, all of a sudden people start to go blind. And everyone goes blind. Not all at the same time. It's like slow, like, you know, a few people here, a few people there. But eventually, everyone goes blind. And so it's about, like, how the government deals with that and how they set up things. It's told mostly through the perspective of this one lady who doesn't go blind. She's, like, waiting that, like, she expects that she will eventually, but she doesn't. And so she gets to see everything that happens and experience everything that happens and have to help all these people that are blind. But man, it's brutal. They like set up these like quarantine zones with all these blind people because they think it's like a disease or something like that. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't really know. I don't think it tells you specifically what caused it or whatever. But it's just so upsetting, and it shows how people can revert to their like baser instincts when put in a situation like this, where they have to like do horrible things in order to survive, and it's an upsetting read. But it's so good. You should definitely read Blindness. The next one on this list, I don't actually have a copy. I read it a few years ago. It's called Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. Basically what it's about is this lady and her husband, they're like leaving a restaurant one night, and they are mugged. And her husband is stabbed trying to defend her. Like, the mugger is, like, messing with her and stuff, trying to rape her or whatever. And so her husband, like, tries to fight him and gets stabbed and killed. And the mugger runs off, and he dies, right? So then after that, you know, there's an investigation, the police and all this stuff. She goes home, she's going through his things, and she finds this computer. And on the computer are all these films of... you'd call, I guess, snuff films is what you'd call them. So this is another instance of kind of like Gone Girl, where like she's finding these things out about her husband that she didn't know, and it's disturbing for a number of reasons. And then so this whole experience rekindles her relationship with her sister, who they were kind of estranged. They didn't really talk. They had another sister that was like murdered or something, or like whatever. It's been a long time since I've read it, but like she went missing years and years ago, and then after that happened, they kind of like lost contact with each other. But now this event and the stuff that's going on in her life, like they get back together to try to figure out what's going on. And it is a crazy book. It is messed up. There are some really, really disturbing images involving violence against women and things like that. It is a doozy, but I did really enjoy it. I think Karen Slaughter is a very, very good like crime writer. So if you're interested in that, I recommend it. The next book on the list is The Ruins by Scott Smith. This is a story about a group of 20-something college-age students. They're vacationing in Mexico, and they go on like a hiking trip, and they find these like old Mayan ruins, and they get stuck there. And there's something there that doesn't want them to leave. And I don't want to give too much of it away because it is pretty freaking crazy. But really what's like, one, it's very, very, very gory. Like super, super brutal body horror stuff. And it's gross and it'll make you cringe. But the thing that's really disturbing about this book is like the way that they just deteriorate. The social dynamic in the group deteriorates and they start being assholes to each other. They're just not good people. But then like as you're reading it, you're like, well, it's really easy to say, oh, they're being stupid, like why would you do these things? But then you look at what they're dealing with and all this stuff and you're like, well, I don't know what I would do in that situation, so maybe, I don't know. Anyway, it's a crazy book, and the ending is just, it is bleak, and it really hurts, but it's so good. It was very, very, very good. The next book is Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. This one was actually a toss-up. I had to decide between this book or The Road, and it was a tough one. I decided on this one because I just like this book a lot. It was very, very good. But it's a Western. It's very violent. It's basically about this guy. I think he's unnamed. The protagonist is. I think they just call him the Kid mostly. And then there's the main antagonist is called the Judge, and the Judge is bad. He's a bad guy. But throughout the book, there's a lot of like killing Indians and selling their scalps. There's a lot of like racism towards Native Americans and stuff like that. The Judge is just a crazy, crazy antagonist, and like there's a lot of this like good, evil, like devil-y type of symbolism going on. Like he's maybe not even a real person or magic in some way. It's very strange, and but I don't know. Cormac McCarthy's writing is so beautiful and awesome. I just love this book, and it's really stuck with me. Even though I read it like 5 years ago, I still think about this book all the time. The next book is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. This book is about a guy. His name's Patrick Bateman. He's like a yuppie in New York in the 80s. He's super rich. He works, I don't even know what he does, on Wall Street or something. He makes millions and millions of dollars. Him and all his friends are just super vain and super shallow. Everything's a status symbol for them. Everything about their lives is about how much it costs and who saw them wearing what and who saw them eating at what restaurant and how much it costs and all this stuff. So it's kind of an indictment on consumerism. It's also like about conformity and how they're all basically the same, to the point where like Patrick gets like mistaken for other people, but he doesn't like correct anybody when this happens. He just goes along with it. He's like, oh yeah, I'm Paul Allen, and like it's weird. But underneath all that, Patrick Bateman lives this secret life where he murders people. Like he's a psychopath. He kills all kinds of people, but mostly I think he kills like women, prostitutes, things like that. And it's, oh my god, it is brutal. There are a couple scenes in this that it's crazy. And if you've seen the movie, the movie's great. I love the movie. In fact, I had seen the movie a number of times before I ever read the book, but the book just takes it up a notch as far as like the violence and the craziness. So I do highly recommend this one. It's one of my favorite books. Alright, and then the last book on this list is The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum. This is a story about a girl named Meg. Basically, I think she's like, her parents are like on vacation or something, so she's like staying with her aunt, some distant relative in this like smaller town. And, you know, there's all these, like, other, like, neighbor kids that are running around, and they kind of hang out at this house all the time. The aunt that she's staying with or whatever is bad. She's a bad person. She doesn't like Meg for whatever reason. And so she, like, ties her up and then, like, eggs on these kids to, like, torture her in their basement. And it escalates and continues, and it's just, it's really messed up. And this poor girl, like, she just gets brutalized by these kids, and this adult authority figure that's supposed to be protecting her just lets it all happen, and in fact encourages it. So it's very disturbing because it's about torture of a young girl, which is bad. It's also super disturbing because it's told through from the perspective of one of the kids that like hangs out there. He doesn't directly participate, or he probably does, but not in any of the really bad stuff. But he does, you know, some stuff. But the thing that really bothers me about this book a lot is that he feels guilty about it because he doesn't say anything, he doesn't try to stop it, and he's complicit in it, and, you know, he's part of this whole thing, and then, of course, it escalates to a point where he can't stop it, like it's beyond his control, but it's told through his perspective, so you're in his head, and it kind of makes you, the reader, feel like you're participating in what's going on, which is really... That is what makes this book super disturbing to me, is just that it's like you feel like you're an active participant in what's going on. It really makes you feel bad. The other thing about this book is that it's based on like a real life event. I don't remember the name of the girl that this is based on, but it was true. It was a true story about a girl who was staying with her aunt or something, and the neighbor kids tortured her. It is a very good book. I don't usually recommend this book to people because it is so hard to read and it's very, very messed up. But if you want something like that, then go for it. I really did enjoy the book, although it left a bad taste in my mouth. So yeah, so there's my list. 10 very disturbing books. If you want to let me know if you've read any of these, if you agree with my list or not, please do so in the comments. Also, if you have any recommendations for more disturbing novels. I do like to read novels like this. Not all the time, but I like a book to make my skin crawl every once in a while. So let me know down in the comments if you have any recommendations for me. Anyway, that's all I got. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.